Grammar Witch here with some more APA writing style tips. First of all, there are 4 qualities of effective scholarly writing: continuity, flow, conciseness, and clarity. We'll talk about some transitions here, some time links, some cause-effect links, addition links, and contrast links to give your paper a better flow. We need to avoid contractions. That is, let's go. It should be let us go in formal writing. Colloquialisms, gonna should be going to. And do not overuse jargon. Do not attribute human characteristics to animals or inanimate sources. Also, use verb tense consistently and ensure subject-verb agreement. And pay attention to your voice. Passive voice is like, surveys were completed by students. But active voice is like, students completed the surveys. Avoid the editorial we. We live on the same planet but rarely understand each other. Instead, use, for example, as professors, we tend to rely, Use they even for singular to incorporate all genders and avoid gender bias. Each student turned in their survey. Use who for humans and that for objects. The students who completed. The instructions that. Who versus whom. The students who participated and eligible students were female, each of whom had. Restrictive that. Essential to meaning. No commas. Student surveys that conflict. The non-restrictive which. Add further meaning to a sentence. You have to use commas. All surveys were completed in the office, which provided suitable privacy. Use while to link events occurring simultaneously. Reading may enrich your life while reducing stress. Otherwise, use although, despite, and or but in place of while. And if since does not refer to time, use because. Students were leaving because the bell rang. Place an adjective or adverb as close as possible to the word it modifies. These points provide only a partial list. Between and, both and, neither and nor, either and or, not only and but also. Use affirming and inclusive language. Writing should reflect respect for participants and readers. Describe at the appropriate level of specificity. Not man, but refer to human beings as persons or individuals. Be sensitive to labels, not the poor, but people living in poverty. Use non-binary, transgender, genderqueer, agender, or gender fluid, or binary, boy, girl, man. Infants are 12 and under, adolescents 13 to 17, and adults 18 and older. Disability. Use person with autism or people with substance use disorders. Avoid negative or condescending terminology. Rather than wheelchair-bound, use wheelchair user. Rather than AIDS victim, use person with AIDS. For gender, attitudes, feelings, and behaviors that a given culture are associated with a person's biological sex. For example, 60% of participants identified as cisgender women, 35% as cisgender men, 3% as transgender women, 1% as transgender men, and 1% as non-binary. For gender identity, which describes a person's psychological sense of their gender that may or may not correspond to a person's sex assigned at birth. Inherent sense of being a boy, man, male, girl, woman, female, or non-binary gender. Sexual orientation, distinct from gender identity. A gay transgender man has a masculine gender identity and a gay sexual orientation. Cisgender, individuals whose sex assigned at birth aligns with their gender identity. Cisgenderism or cissexism, belief that being cisgender is normative, meaning individuals are cisgender unless otherwise specified. Genderism, the belief that there are only 2 genders and gender is automatically linked to an individual's sex assigned at birth. Transgender refers to persons whose gender identity, expression, and/or role does not conform to what is culturally associated with their sex assigned at birth. Transgender, two-spirit, the term specific to Native American and Indigenous communities. Trans prejudice or transnegativity denote discriminatory attitudes towards individuals who are transgender. TGNC people is an umbrella term for transgender non-conforming people. Avoid birth sex, natal sex, tranny, transvestite, and transsexual. Refer to all people by the names they use to refer to themselves. That will keep you out of trouble in your paper. Use people, individuals, persons, rather than man, mankind. For example, a police officer, not a policeman. A homemaker, not a housewife. And use they, them, or theirs for singular too. Or if you can figure them out, use the ze, she, her, per, they, a, hen, etc. Avoid using opposite sex, as that implies binary. Instead, use another sex. For race, physical differences that groups and cultures consider socially significant, and ethnicity, shared cultural characteristics such as language, ancestry, practices, and beliefs. Use people of African origin, for example. Punctuation. One space after a period or other punctuation marks at the end of a sentence. Commas, colons, semicolons, initials, and names. No space for abbreviations like IE, AM, US, AD. Colons in ratios do not get a space, 1 in 4. And no periods for states, or acronyms, or academic degrees. Commas. Height, width, comma, and depth. Retrieved April 24, 2020. But no commas if you just have the month and the year. And when a complete sentence is enclosed in parentheses like this, place the end punctuation inside the parenthesis. If only part of a sentence is enclosed in parentheses, place punctuation outside the parenthesis like this. Thank you very much.